podcast will begin shortly.
Your co-hosts are Chief streaming from Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook.
Thank you for watching Highway 34 Connection. Today's podcast will begin shortly.
Your co-hosts are Chief streaming from Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, along with Insidious streaming on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, and the Ghost from Ghost MAF streaming on Twitch. Welcome to Highway 34 Connection, the pod. The following podcasts are for mature audiences only, unscripted, unfiltered, and unedited as always. Pro Wrestling Talk, where we will sit down and we will discuss the world of professional wrestling. Conspiracy theories. Have a conspiracy you want us to talk about? Email us at highway34@gmail.com. Highway 34's History Lesson of the Week for World History. Talking Football, where we'll discuss the National Football League, the XFL, and the USFL. And the Honest 50, where the Chief will sit down with a guest and ask 50 questions, 25 from the Chief, 25 from their community. The Battle of Highway 34, the Trivia Show. Watch and listen as Ghost battles Insidious, or they battle the Chief. It is now time for your main event. Let's freaking go.
Good morning. I know this is Wednesday. I'm a day late. Sorry. For those of you that were waiting for yesterday for the new conspiracy video, and I apologize. So, doing it in this morning. And dude, is it freaking early. Almost too damn early. But anywho, today's topic I have chose can't really call it one person, Kennedy assassination. And here's the Chief. Let's see what he's doing this morning. What's up?
Not much. You realize that the copyright's in the opening video now, right?
No, I didn't, but I added
So what you doing today?
JFK assassination.
Okay, you have fun with that. I'm getting ready to clock in at work.
Let me rephrase. JFK, Robert, Sr. and Jr.
All right, well, I'm getting to clock in at work. Have fun. See y'all later.
Yep. Have a good day, brother.
Yep.
Morning, Snowflake. And yes, it is very freaking early. Actually, probably too damn early for Insidious to be doing a podcast. My brain ain't even functioning. I ain't even down the monster yet. Like, literally. Shouldn't we all? Alright, let me get a YouTube here. Because I want to go with YouTube first. Because that's where most of the content I have found is. Let me get into this. gotta get to my YouTube on my phone to find out the exact location. Oh, excuse me. Damn. Okay. Alright, so I'm having trouble trying to find my stupid video is. No, I just watched it the other day, some of it. And that's what made me wanted to do this. Except for I don't know if I saved it to my liked videos or not. Mm-hmm. Nope. Alright. Now. Well, this is interesting. Sorry, people. Chief, not funny. See if I can find the video. I didn't realize I watched this video this long ago. Uh-huh.
Telltale signs.
Okay, so I have found it. So now let's I'm gonna get into this real quick. So all right, so now I can share screen. Sorry guys, lack of
given before the American Newspaper Publishers Association.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
On November 22nd, 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. There are hours of damning evidence clearly showing that the CIA, organized crime, and the highest levels of the U.S. federal government were all involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy, including the magic bullet, the grassy knoll, and the presence of young CIA asset George H.W. Bush in Dallas that day, a day that he claims he could not remember. But the entire operation was blamed on a single lone gunman. An hour after hearing that his brother was dead, Robert Kennedy told his close aide that he was surprised it wasn't him. He thought that he would be the one they would get. Over the next few days, he wrote letters to his children, charging them with the responsibility to love and serve their country and to remember what their Uncle John had started. A few years later, the New York Times published an article claiming that President Kennedy told one of the highest officials in his administration that he wanted to splinter the CIA in 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. On March 16, 1968, Robert Kennedy officially announced he was running for president. On June 5th, following major victories in the primaries, he was gunned down after giving a speech at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, California. Nina Rhodes Hughes was one of a small few who witnessed the assassination, and she claims there was another shooter. She later expressed outrage that the police ignored her statement. The shot that Robert Kennedy.
So I'm going to pause it for a second. I never knew that at all, because going back through history, we're taught in school, we are not taught any of that. They don't really tell you the reason why. I believe their word of the reasoning was because he was a good man. That's all you ever hear. Yeah, he was a good man, but there's always a motive. And when you start, and the bad thing is about politics, and we're kind of seeing it already, you step on the wrong toes. They want to come after you. And they want to come after you with everything they have. Chief, shut up. Try that. So yeah, I was just mind boggled by some of this, but we'll keep going. It gets even better.
Was fired up close in the back of his head, and the whole operation was blamed on a single lone gunman who was standing in front of him.
Well, it appears that they concluded within about an hour's time that Sirhan acted alone, or that was going to be their conclusion, and they thereafter tailored all of the evidence to fit that conclusion.
Regicide is the ritual killing of a king to memorialize a subversion of power. And while the Kennedy family is as greasy as the rest of the swamp, the two brothers stand out like mythical kings. Aside from Dr. Ron Paul, who said we need to get rid of them completely, nobody in government questions the crimes of the CIA. While promoting a book on television in 1978, a young RFK Jr. referred to American politics as a one-party system and his father and uncle's demise as an occupational hazard. In March of 1999, John F. Kennedy Jr. had a meeting to plan a run for the 2000 U.S. Senate election against Hillary Clinton. 4 months later, he died in a fatal plane crash with all the telltale signs of a cover-up.
See, that's the one that got me there. You hear, well, hey, Pixie, good morning. So, the propaganda, JFK Jr. was lost. But I will agree, because they haven't ever found the plane. And even though they have where the transponder went off at, they couldn't find the plane. They haven't found wreckage, nothing that I'm aware of. I could research that. Let me finish this video, and then I'll go back and research that real quick and get you that answer.
Recently declassified documents show that Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged lone gunman in the JFK, was a CIA asset. RFK Jr. is running for president in 2024 and calls out the CIA. He also blames the CIA for his uncle.
We are Ottumwa, a community of friends and families. And
you know what's funny is Ottumwa Regional Health Center sucks. We shouldn't even be talking about it.
CIA, his uncle, which he calls a successful coup d'etat from which our democracy has never recovered. And he believes that his father was assassinated by the security guard who shot him from behind after pushing him into their patsy, Sirhan.
One of the interesting things about this case is that Sirhan was reportedly in front of Robert Kennedy, and investigators initially said that he was by a gunshot wound that went through the back of him. So,
in 2003, the CIA released a classified document with the subject heading Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process, a process that utilizes audio frequencies to achieve brain hemisphere synchronization. In order to provide a thorough evaluation, the document covers the techniques of hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, thereby providing a modern scientific account of an ancient guarded knowledge of mankind's spiritual potential, a potential that could save humanity from the mind control tactics being used to divide and enslave us. The left brain is the mind's verbal and linear reasoning component. It categorizes and assigns meaning to incoming stimuli and passes this resulting information to the right brain, which is non-critical and accepts whatever information it is given without question. The left brain is the ego mind. It operates on autopilot and can be easily swayed by external stimuli. Most of us are unaware of this because we naturally tend to identify ourselves with the ego. We think that the ego is who we are, but in fact, it is just a part of our mental processing. The right brain is our subconscious mind, and hypnosis is a technique of directly accessing the subconscious by disengaging the ego, giving us self-awareness and control over the subconscious mind. Transcendental meditation achieves this by practicing single-minded concentration of drawing energy up from the base of the spinal cord and into the brain. With practice, this visual concentration eventually polarizes the cortex, bringing both hemispheres into balance, allowing the individual to transcend the ego mind. With biofeedback, rather than suppressing the left brain as done with hypnosis or ignoring it as done with meditation, the practitioner programs the ego mind with visualization while monitoring the physiological response, thereby programming the subconscious mind by observing the results with real-time biological feedback. The gateway process, also known as hemisync, achieves this same goal by simply listening to specific audio frequencies that bring both hemispheres of the brain into synchronicity with one another. All of these practices, some of which have been taught for millennia, have been proven effective with modern scientific tools. The gateway process has been shown to bring the entire body into a coherent vibration of approximately 7 to 7.5 cycles per second, which then creates a resonance with the electrostatic field of the Earth. It is believed that this resonance is what allows the practitioner to transcend time and space, or in other words, allow their consciousness to leave the body without limitation. What we call physical matter is not solid at all. It is more like a highly advanced holographic image made up of different frequencies. What we experience as solid matter is actually the electromagnetic repulsion of certain frequencies, and this includes our own physical body. And so it is believed that the reason these practices work is because our consciousness is not being generated by our bodies, but rather our bodies are being generated by our consciousness. Physicists have proven that the physical world is energy and define time as a measurement of change within this energy.
Okay, now I think I know why I didn't finish that video there. That was a little weird. Very weird, actually, how it transcended from the original topic at hand and went completely off the freaking rails. Yeah, that was bizarre. But the thing that intrigued me most about the beginning of the video was the fact that the similarities were all there. Like, it was almost like you could tell it was cover up, but why? Now, I think the thing is, when you start picking your nose at certain things, instance CIA, FBI, you go as far as even political power, per se. You get into that gray area of maybe I shouldn't touch that, maybe I shouldn't go that far. But the thing that caught me most about the John F. Kennedy itself was that day in Texas, he had the Italian mob there. I know he was working with them, but I'm surprised the Secret Service even let that even get close. It was just kind of weird that they said they were there for protection. I don't know, just bizarre. Very bizarre to me. Like I said, I knew he was working with them. I don't know the extent, apparently, of what all they were working on or working with him about. Let me see here if there's anything else I can find out. Well, so we've all heard about Edward Snowden on why he did what he did. I'm going to share screen this for some people that don't know. This is supposedly a whole different conspiracy of its own. But the fact is he is by far a man with a lot of balls to do what he did. So I'm going to share screen this one.
My name is Ed Snowden. I'm 29 years old. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton as an infrastructure analyst for NSA in Hawaii.
What are some of the positions that you held previously within the intelligence community?
I've been a systems engineer, systems administrator, senior advisor for the Central Intelligence Agency, solutions consultant, and a telecommunications information systems officer.
One of the things people are going to be most interested in trying to understand who you are and what you're thinking is there came some point in time when you crossed this line of thinking about being a whistleblower to making the choice to actually become a whistleblower. Walk people through that decision-making process.
When you're in positions of privileged access, like a systems administrator for these sort of intelligence community agencies, you're exposed to a lot more information on a broader scale than the average employee. And because of that, you see things that may be disturbing, but over the course of a normal person's career, you'd only see one or two of these instances. When you see everything, you see them on a more frequent basis. And you recognize that some of these things are actually abuses. And when you talk to people about them in a place like this, where this is the normal state of business, people tend not to take them very seriously and move on from them. But over time, that awareness of wrongdoing sort of builds up, and you feel compelled to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, the more you're ignored, the more you're told it's not a problem, until eventually you realize that these things need to be determined by the public, not by somebody who is simply hired by the government.
Talk a little bit about how the American surveillance state actually functions. Does it target the actions of Americans?
NSA and the intelligence community in general is focused on getting intelligence wherever it can, by any means possible, that it believes on the grounds of sort of a self-certification that they serve the national interest. Originally, we saw that focus very narrowly tailored as foreign intelligence gathered overseas. Now, increasingly, we see that it's happening domestically. And to do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time, simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends. So while they may be intending to target someone associated with a foreign government or someone that they suspect of terrorism, they're collecting your communications to do so. Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector anywhere. Where those communications will be picked up depends on the range of the sensor networks and the authorities that that analyst is empowered with. Not all analysts have the ability to target everything. But I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
One of the extraordinary parts about this episode is that usually whistleblowers do what they do anonymously and take steps to remain anonymous for as long as they can, which they hope often is forever. You, on the other hand, have decided to do the opposite, which is to declare yourself openly as the person behind these disclosures. Why did you choose to do that?
I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy. And if you do that in secret consistently, as the government does when it wants to benefit from a secret action that it took, it'll kind of give its officials a mandate to go, hey, tell the press about this thing and that thing, so the public is on our side. But they rarely, if ever, do that when an abuse occurs. That falls to individual citizens, but they're typically maligned. It becomes a thing of these people are against the country, they're against the government. But I'm not. I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what's happening, and goes, this is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong. And I'm willing to go on the record to defend the authenticity of them and say, I didn't change these. I didn't modify the story. This is the truth. This is what's happening. You should decide whether we need to be doing this.
Have you given thought to what it is that the U.S. government's response to your conduct is, in terms of what they might say about you, how they might try to depict you, what they might try to do to you?
Yeah, I could be, rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of their third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations, or they could pay off the triads, or any of their agents or assets. We've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be. You can't come forward against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and be completely free from risk, because they're such powerful adversaries that no one can meaningfully oppose them. If they want to get you, they'll get you in time. But at the same time, you have to make a determination about what it is that's important to you. And if living unfreely but comfortably is something you're willing to accept, and I think many of us are, it's the human nature. You can get up every day, you can go to work, you can collect your large paycheck for relatively little work against the public interest, and go to sleep at night after watching your shows. But if you realize that that's the world that you helped create, and it's going to get worse with the next generation and the next generation who extend the capabilities of this sort of architecture of oppression, you realize that you might be willing to accept any risk. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as the public gets to make their own decisions about how that's applied.
Why should people care about surveillance?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
We are
We're seeing that
sitting in a room in Hong Kong,
We've seen it for 4 years.
where we are because you traveled here. Talk a little bit about why it is that you came here, and specifically, there are going to be people who will speculate that what you really intend to do is to defect to the country that many see as the number one rival of the United States, which is China, and that what you're really doing is essentially seeking to aid an enemy of the United States with which you intend to seek asylum. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there's a couple assertions in those arguments that are sort of embedded in the questioning of the choice of Hong Kong. The first is that China is an enemy of the United States. It's not. I mean, there are conflicts between the United States government and the Chinese PRC government, but the peoples inherently, we don't care. We trade with each other freely. We're not at war.
With what he's saying there, I think deep down we have become comfortable, and I think with not really being comfortable per se, it's the idea that you didn't even know this shit was out there. And I get what he's saying, because before Trump ran for president, you didn't hear anything bad about him. Nothing. You heard all these good things, and then he becomes president, and then you have all this backlog of information just come out. So, and it was, I always wondered about it, like, how'd they pick that up? Like, that camera was just randomly there. And now it makes sense. It's because it's been stored. Any email you've sent, any phone call you've made, they're all freaking recorded. And you know what's funny? If you've ever seen the movie Edward Snowden, when him and his wife would talk, he actually would have her turn her cell phone off, and he would shut his off, and then they would leave them in the house, and they would go for a walk, and they would talk, but he would never discuss his business with her. But the one time he did was when he put her on a plane somewhere else and said, I am about to do something I'm going to regret. And that's when he brought all this forward. It's a really good movie. I would recommend watching it. It is, our government is by far something else. And it is sad that this is going on around us every day, and mostly for us just not even to be aware of the whole situation. And we probably would never have known it until years down the road, when the government would find, like, hey, we've been spying on you for years. And that would be years down the road. And he said that we had a right to know. Well, I'm pretty sure not everybody agreed with him. I know one person didn't, Obama.
We're the largest trading partners out there for each other. Additionally, Hong Kong has a strong tradition of free speech. People think, oh, China, great firewall. Mainland China does have significant restrictions on free speech, but the people of Hong Kong have a long tradition of protesting in the streets, of making their views known. The internet is not filtered here, no more so than any other Western government. And I believe that the Hong Kong government is actually independent in relation to a lot of other leading Western governments.
If your motive had been to harm the United States and help its enemies, or if your motive had been personal material gain, were there things that you could have done with these documents to advance those goals that you didn't end up doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anybody in the positions of access with the technical capabilities that I had could, suck out secrets, pass them on the open market to Russia. They always have an open door, as we do. I had access to, the full rosters of everyone working at the NSA, the entire intelligence community, and undercover assets all around the world, the locations of every station we have, what their missions are, and so forth. If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., that you could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon. But that's not my intention. And I think for anyone making that argument, they need to think, if they were in my position, and you live a privileged life, you're living in Hawaii in paradise and making a ton of money, what would it take to make you leave everything behind? The greatest fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People will see in the media all of these disclosures. They'll know the lengths that the government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society. But they won't be willing to take the risks necessarily to stand up and fight to change things, to force their representatives to actually take a stand in their interests. And the months ahead, the years ahead, it's only going to get worse until eventually there will be a time where policies will change, because the only thing that restricts the activities of the surveillance state are policy. Even our agreements with other sovereign governments, we consider that to be a stipulation of policy rather than a stipulation of law. And because of that, a new leader will be elected. They'll flip the switch, say that because of the crisis, because of the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority. We need more power. And there will be nothing that people can do at that point to oppose it. And it'll be turnkey tyranny.
I've wondered 100 times over if we ain't at that point. Chief is at work. He was just in here, Scott. He just left. So the thing behind Snowden is I look at a lot of that, and a guy that wanted better for his country turned out to be a villain. Who does that sound like? For 4 years, we heard the exact same thing. And I don't want to say I'm picking sides. I don't. But I was a Democrat before I was a Republican. And I didn't think anything would change. And the reason most people become, even switch to Republicans, and the main reason Trump had such a strong 2016 election is because he said things that everybody was already feeling. People like me. We have a corruption in the government. He was the first one to ever talk about it. No other politician's going to talk about it. Obama said it was time for a change, but what the hell did he change? Nothing. Nothing was good. Your medical increased with Obamacare if you were employed. It didn't do anything for you. So, at the point of most politicians will lie. Trump's a businessman, he ain't a politician. U.S. was making money. Something it hasn't done probably since the early 90s. if you go back and through time or whatever, and look at some of the bills that were passed by other presidents, and I know someone's going to say George Bush was a Republican. We ain't claiming that one. And I think the main reason George Bush got in was under pure name recognition. That's just me. I do want to point something else up, because this will go along with what I'm saying. So I'll show you another quick video. This one here will not take very long. So, something everybody's always wanted to know, some of us already knew. Is the U.S. a republic or a democracy? Again, this all goes along with what I've been saying, so that's why I kind of want to do this one.
Some sort of proof of their superior political knowledge. What the sentence actually shows is that this person misunderstands both the political systems in question and the sophistication of their own political knowledge. To find out why, let's take a deeper look at the difference between these two. The term republic comes from the Latin res publica, or public affair, and it refers to the idea that governments are not the personal property or prerogative of a monarch. Democracy, on the other hand, comes from the Greek words demos and kratos, or people power. Democracy was invented by the Greeks and most developed in Athens, where it operated as a direct form of government. That is, one where people themselves decided on the policies for the polis, or city. They did not choose someone to decide for them. In the modern world, however, this type of system has never been implemented as a type of government by any country anywhere in the planet. The country that comes closest is Switzerland, which has a strong tradition of democracy by referendum, where people have directly enacted any number of policies, including regarding pensions, immigration, taxation, and so on. Hopefully, it's obvious to you why this Athenian form of democracy has never been tried as a form of government. But if not, just consider what a country would look like if every government decision had to be voted on and approved by the people living in that country. Just as a matter of expediency, it would be a problem with certain matters, such as declaring war. But the complexity issue would be even worse. There would be no bureaucracy, for one thing. But even if there was, the level of knowledge people would have to make good decisions would far surpass what people have now. In other words, one needs far less knowledge to choose the best representative possible than one would need to enact the best possible policy. The Founding Fathers knew this, which is why they were so against the idea of democracy, because for them, democracy was Athenian democracy. They, however, were not against people power. For them, all authority derived from the American public. It is not a coincidence that the preamble of the Constitution makes clear that the people are the ones establishing the new constitutional system. But notice that the preamble says, "we the people." The Founding Fathers were claiming the American nation as the ultimate authority, but it was the framers who were speaking for the people. What the Founding Fathers established then was a representative or delegative democracy, a place where individuals would freely choose someone else to represent them in government decisions, or what the Founding Fathers would have called a republic. And if you don't believe me, let's check in with our friend James Madison, who is considered to be the main architect of the Constitution and who wrote in Federalist 10 his definition of democracy. From this view of the subject, it may be concluded that a pure democracy, by which I mean a society consisting of a small number of citizens who assemble and administer the government in person, can admit of no cure for the mischiefs of faction. Hence, it is that such democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security of the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. And in Federalist 39, his definition of a republic. We may define a republic to be, or at least may bestow that name upon, a government which derives all its powers directly or indirectly from the great body of the people, and is administered by persons holding their offices during pleasure, for a limited period, or during good behavior. The confusion about the terms, then, arises from the fact that while direct and representative democracy mean exactly what they have always meant, the common parlance used in the 18th century to refer to them, democracy and republic, have changed. That's because well into the 1800s, the idea that the authority of government should come from people was radical. Prior to that time, most of the planet had been ruled by one type of monarchy or another. Even in Europe, as a result of the American and French revolutions, however, this began to change, and now basically everyone claims to be democratic even when they're clearly not. Thus today, when people say democracy, they mean a place where people have rights, one of the most important of which is being able to choose their leaders in free and fair elections. But here's the thing, this change has meant that monarchies can also be democratic, as is the case with the United Kingdom and the Netherlands. And republics can be non-democratic, as is the case with North Korea. And that's because, again, republic simply means having someone in charge of government who's not a king, while democracies at their most basic mean people being able to choose their leaders. Thus, people who say that we are not a democracy, we're a republic, are wrong. We are both, which is why every single American president, including Trump, from the 20th century on, has called the United States a democracy. They were not mistaken. They were simply stating a fact. And now you know why.
This Wednesday,
Look.
Hy-Vee's daily deals are.
But, all right, let me close that out because, well, that could get me copyrighted. So the thing with, I agree with what he said, but you don't hear the term republic enough. You hear mostly endangered or democracy. So if they're together, then why wouldn't you say it's an endanger to our republic and democracy? Seems like they will care more about the democracy part rather than the republic part. I mean, I guess you could twist it either way if you really wanted to. I've seen videos where they say another president said that we are not a democracy, we are a republic. So again, like I said, you can probably twist that any way you want. But I've said it once before, the flag behind me, it's got a saying by George Washington. It says, the free people ought not only be armed and disciplined, but they should have significant arms and ammunition to maintain a statue of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government. It's funny because tyranny is what we hear a lot about today, which is something that they knew. I mean, they all knew that eventually when you empower a government, it can easily be turned. And once you have power, you want more power. And when you have money, you want more money. So they knew that would happen. But how far does it go? I mean, how far do you think they'll take it? And I think that's a point of the tyranny, as how far will the American people let them take it? That's a question. I hear a lot of people mostly diehard left wing. So you tried that with January 6th. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. First off, there was over 3 million people at that rally. 3 million. Only 100 got in. Really? Your number is way off, because the number of people that was at that rally, if they would have went in there, they would have overthrown the government. And what the hell could they have done? I'll show you something real quick. And don't worry, this is not a video, so this won't take me long. Okay, so I'm going to read this. This is the Declaration of Independence of the 13 United States of America, okay? This is as clear as I can get. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. So, the declaration for the 13 is the government, if they feel they are causing you harm and the people harm, they can abolish it and re-elect new government. And what was part of the 13 colonies? Let's get into that one real quick. So the 13 was Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I said that twice, didn't I? Okay. Okay, there might have the signatures. So, my bad. So that's what you see with the 1776 flags. That was for the year of the Declaration of Independence signed for the 13 colonies. So yeah, it was Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So those were the ones that were owned by the British. So I don't know if they're talking about the government in those states, or if they are talking about government in general. They probably should have made that more clear. But I think back then it reaches a time frame that everybody was more civil and got along than what we are today. Today we are judged by so much shit that it ain't even funny. And I wish I was saying I was wrong, but I'm not. And they also didn't have the technology we have today. That don't help the whole damn situation either. But all right, guys, that's all I got for today. You guys have a good rest of your day and have a good rest of your week. I'll get with Ghost to find out. That'll probably be Monday, because I think the actual NFL season gets underway Sunday. So if that's so, well, I'll be here Monday night. We'll be doing a football podcast. All right, enjoy your rest of your day. Have a good week and / weekend, and we'll see you next time. If I can figure it out. Hi, I'm Insidious. Thanks for watching this podcast.
This is the Ghost.
What the hell? Hi, I'm Insidious. Thanks for watching this podcast.
This is the Ghost, and thank you for watching our podcast.
And I am the Chief. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night.